Hello everyone. Let's review shloka number 37 in Soundarya Lahari. Vishuddhau te śuddhasphaṭikaviśadaṁ vyomajanakaṁ śivaṁ seve devīmapi śivasamānavyavasitām yayoḥ kāntyā yāntyāśśaśikiraṇasārūpyasaraṇeḥ vidhūtāntardhvāntā vilasati cakorīva jagatī. So that is the 37th verse in Soundarya Lahari. Today we'll review the meaning of this verse as well as a short story associated with it. First, let's look at the full meaning of the verse and then we will look at the word by word meaning. What this verse is saying is, in your Vishuddha Chakra, I worship Shiva, who is clear like a pure crystal and the creator of ether, and also Devi, who is equal to Shiva in every respect. By the combined radiance of these two, which flows like a stream of pure moonlight, the Sadhaka's inner world, having its internal darkness of ignorance dispelled, rejoices like the female Chakora bird. So now let's take a look at the word by word meaning here. Vishuddhau te. Te means your. So that your is referencing Devi. So Devis. Te means your Devis. Vishuddhau. Vishuddhau means the Vishuddha Chakra, which is in the throat chakra. So if you look at the word Vishuddhi, Shuddha means pure. Vishuddha means extreme purity. So this chakra, the throat chakra, is called as Vishuddhi because this is the place where the soul's truth and speech reside. It is the first spiritual chakra that we have. Everything below it is either physical or emotional. So in your Vishuddha Chakra, Vishuddhau te, that's what it means. So who is in the Vishuddha Chakra? Shivaṁ. Shivaṁ is Lord Shiva. And how is this Shiva? śuddhasphaṭikaviśadaṁ. Shuddha means pure, sphatikam means crystal, and viśadaṁ means white, spotless. So śuddhasphaṭikaviśadaṁ means he is pure, crystal clear and bright. That's what it means. He is like that. So Shiva is pure like a flawless crystal. So if you look at a crystal, the crystal is unique because it has no color of its own. If you place a red flower behind it, the crystal will look red. If you put a blue cloth, then it will appear blue. But the crystal itself is unchanged and stainless, right? It may appear red, but it is not touched by that red. Similarly, Shiva represents that pure consciousness. Shiva represents the state of pure consciousness that is untouched by the human ego, the emotions or thoughts. So like the crystal, he provides the space for everything to happen, the worldly experiences to happen. That's why the red color can be there, the blue color can be there, and the crystal will look like that. But similarly, Shiva will provide the space for the worldly experiences to happen, but he is not stained or altered by them. So the śuddhasphaṭikaviśadaṁ establishes Shiva as the pure consciousness that is untouched by the human worldly experiences. Vyomajanakaṁ. Vyoma means ether, which is the space or the sky. Janaka means father or one who creates. So vyomajanakaṁ means one who is the father or producer of the element space. So if you look at the creation, it happens from the subtle to the gross. So if you look at Taittiriya Upanishad, it says, from that ultimate being, that Parabrahman, first all the space was born, ether was born. And then from ether came air, from air came fire, from fire came water, from water came earth. So that is the progression of the universe. So Shiva is worshipped as the Janaka here because he is the point where that nothing, so that ultimate being is nothing, it's tat. And that nothing became something, which is the space, right? And if you look at space, it is all pervading, it's everywhere. It doesn't do anything, but it allows for everything to exist. So that's what it means. So he's the pure consciousness, but he is the container for the entire universe. So he is the ultimate container. So he's not just someone who produces it, but he's also the support. So vyomajanakaṁ is establishing Shiva as the one who provides the origin and the support for everything. So that Shiva, who is pure crystal clear and flawless, and who is the creator of the space, is in the Vishuddhi Chakra. And Acharya says, seve devīmapi śivasamānavyavasitām. So seve means I worship. And devīmapi, Devi is Shakti here, api means and. So not just worshipping Shiva, but I'm also worshipping Devi. And how is that Devi? Śivasamānavyavasitām. So Shiva here is again Lord Shiva. Samanam means equal. Vyavasitām means functions, or how she operates, right? So that way what they're trying to say is Devi is equal to Shiva in every respect, right? Her power, her nature, her action, everything is equal to Shiva. So if you say Shiva, in that Devi is also implied, Shakti is also implied, and here he is making a explicit mention that she is equal to him in all respects. So if you see, that is the beauty of Shiva and Shakti's relationship. So Shiva is not above her and Shiva is not below her. She is his equal in form, brilliance, power, everything. They are actually two mirrors that are facing each other, and each one reflecting the infinite light. So that's how their relationship is. And that's why if you look at all the examples you can give about how couples could be, Shiva and Shakti are the best examples, because they are two mature, powerful adults coming together in a relationship, and each one is able to stay the same but also be an equal partner. And that's why we depict them as Ardhanarishwara. So that is the equal marriage that they have. So if Shiva is that pure crystal, then Shakti is the light that fills it. This crystal comes alive when the light hits it. And if you see, that is a equal balance that they are trying to. śivasamānavyavasitām means balance. So in the throat chakra, it is all about finding that balance. So always we have a gap between what we know, the awareness, which is represented by Shiva, and what we do, which is the action that is represented by Shakti. So when a sadhaka worships Devi and Shiva in the Vishuddhi Chakra, then they align their inner truth, which is Shiva, with their outer expression, which is Shakti. So the outer expression here is the speech, and so both of them become equal. So then their thoughts and their words are perfectly synchronized. So far it says, in your Vishuddhi Chakra, I worship Shiva, who is in your Vishuddhi Chakra, and that Shiva who is flawless like a pure crystal, and who is the one who created the space, and also Devi, who is equal to Shiva in every single respect. And there are a few things that are beautiful here, right? As we are with the Shiva and Shakti relationship, you can see here. So here it is establishing Shiva as vyomajanakaṁ, the one who created space. That means slowly from that everything came. Therefore, he is the creator. And Devi is the one who owns the Vishuddhi Chakra. Where is that Vishuddhi Chakra? It is in that physical body. So Devi here is representing the creation. But he says, śivasamānavyavasitām. That means it is establishing that the creator and the creation are one and the same. Actually, if you see, that is our Advaita principle. And if that recognition happens, that person is enlightened. And that kind of a recognition begins to happen here in the Vishuddhi Chakra. So that is one thing that's very beautiful. The other thing in the first line, if you see, So he is the vyomajanakaṁ, the creator of the space. And he is the śuddhasphaṭikaviśadaṁ. He is the spatika, which is the crystal. And then it is in the Vishuddhi. Vishuddhi is in the throat, and that's from where we speak, right? The speech happens there. And all of this have a connection. So we've all heard about the tanmatra. Tanmatra means the subtle element. So basically, the tanmatras are actually the way in which this body, the physical body, interacts with the outside world. So, for example, the tanmatras are 5 actually. So, we say rupa, rasa, gandha, shabda, sparsha. So, it is the sight, taste, smells, touch, etc. So, now if you look at the shabda, which is the speech that we have, the articulated speech is called as vaikari. If you see, the shabda needs the space to travel. Without, even though you have the ears that can hear, you can talk, you have the mouth to talk, unless and until there is space, sound cannot travel. Therefore, the ether is critical for the sound. And if you look at the crystal is capable of storing and transmitting sound. And the Vishuddha Chakra is the place where we speak. So this is also representing that Shiva is the one who is the space, right? That pure consciousness that proceeded to create the space. Shiva is the medium through which that sound travels. So he's also responsible for the sound. Actually, we say that from Shiva's Damaru came all the Maheshwara Sutra. And from the Maheshwara Sutra is where all the language came to be. So he is the one who created the space through which sound travels. He is the sound, and he is the sound that is expressed in terms of language, and he is the one who gives us the ability to express that internal truth at the Vishuddha Chakra. So those are all connected here. So Shiva is the one who is the container of everything, who's made everything possible. So that is also a think and wait. So now worshipping Devi and Shiva at the Vishuddha Chakra. So then the next line says, yayoḥ kāntyā yāntyāśśaśikiraṇasārūpyasaraṇeḥ. So yayoḥ means of these two. Who are the two? Shiva and Shakti. Kāntyā, Kanti means radiance or light. So by the light of these two. Kāntyā means by the light. So yayoḥ kāntyā, by the light of these two. Yāntyā means flowing. And how is that the combined radiance of these two? How is it flowing? And you can think of that radiance as the grace. How is that combined radiance flowing? It is Saśikiraṇasārūpyasaraṇeḥ. Sashi means moon, Kiranam means rays. So it's like moonlight. Sārūpya means similar or like. Sarane means in the path of or in the form of. So the combined radiance of these two is like the moonlight that is cooling the earth, right? So if you look at the worldly life, usually the worldly life is also represented as a forest fire, burning forest fire, Davanala, right? And the grace of the divine couple that's flowing when they are meditated at the Vishuddhi is like the moon, because the moon instantly cools that samsara fire. And that what is that? That fire is the heat of the passion, the anger, the anxiety and all of that. So the divine grace is someone that simply immediately cools that. And also if you see, moon is responsible for growth. Everything grows at night. So similarly, that moonlight nourishes the seeker and they are able to grow and expand their consciousness. So just like moon helps the vegetation and nourishes it, similarly the sadhaka is nourished here. So the next line says, vidhūtāntardhvāntā vilasati cakorīva jagatī. So jagatī means one who belongs to the world. So jagam means world, jagatī means the person who's belonging to the world. So at this point, the sadhaka is worshipping at the Vishuddha Chakra. The rest of the things are all physical and emotional. So they're very much in the worldly plane. So therefore they are called as the jagatī, and this references the sadhaka or the seeker who is worshipping at that point. And what happens to that person when they get this moonlight like grace from Devi and Shiva? Vidhūtāntardhvāntā. Vidhūta means to dispel or dispelled, having dispelled. Antar means inner. Dvanta means darkness. This darkness is the ignorance, the ajnanam that is with each one. So that means when they receive this grace from Devi and Shiva, their inner darkness gets dispelled. So when the inner darkness is removed, what happens? Cakorīva vilasati. Chakori is a female chakora bird, and it is a partridge. Iva means like, vilasati means rejoices. So the inner world of this seeker is now completely removed of the ignorance that they carried, and they are rejoicing like the partridge. So why the mention of the partridge here? So if you see in the Indian mythology, the partridge is considered to be the ultimate symbol of single-minded devotion. So it is said that this Chakora is so deeply in love with the moon, and it ignores food, water, etc. So every day it will keep its beak open, face the sky, and all it's doing is waiting to drink that cool nectar of the moonbeam. So it's always trying to drink the moonlight. And the moon's rays are not just considered to be light, it's considered to be the liquid nectar, amrita. So many of us might have heard, in Paurnami days, usually there will be some milk-based offering offered to the moon, and it will be held up and allow the moon rays to hit that and drink it. It's considered to be nectar. So the moon is considered to be the nectar. So this Chakora, for this Chakora, moon is the source of life. Not food and water, but it's always trying to drink that moonlight. Similarly, for the Sadhaka here, they feel like a Chakora because their soul was restless and parched by the heat of the ego and worldly desires and everything. And when this grace comes, they become satisfied and they are at peace. That's what this means. So the light emanating from Shiva and Shakti is the brilliance of the moon, the Jyotsna, and that light completely destroys the internal darkness, and the sadhaka find their total satisfaction, and they are able to find that clarity because of the grace of Shiva and Shakti. So we spoke a lot about the moon rays and the Chakora bird wanting to drink the moon rays, etc. Actually, the śuddhasphaṭikaviśadaṁ is evoking a beautiful poetic image, right? So there is this night, and there is the full moon glowing, and the rays coming here, and this bird is looking up, and similarly the sadhaka is finding the clarity and devotion. Those are all beautiful poetic way, but it is not simply a poetic image. Actually, it refers to the Amrita Marga, the path of nectar. So it is said that when the Kundalini energy rises all the way to the top, the Sahasrara, apparently near that Sahasrara, there is this Amrita that's held, and then it's like held, think of it like a small cup that is then inverted, and therefore the Amrita held in the cup starts to flow down. And when it starts to flow down, if nothing is done, if it's just allowed, it will go all the way to the digestive fire, and the Amrita is digested and there is no use because of it. But it is said that the people who practice yoga and who are raising their Kundalini have special ways of trying to catch that nectar in the throat chakra. There is a way to put your tongue all the way back and catch it, and it's called as Kechari Mudra. And then that kind of utilization allows for them to reach to the, stay in a state of bliss, etc. So there is definitely a reference to the Amrita Marga. So we said that the Vishuddhi is the gateway to the higher mind, right? And Vishuddhi Chakra is typically depicted as a 16-petaled lotus. And it is said that the 15 petals there represent the different tithis. And so those tithis represent the waxing and waning of the moon, and those are symbolic of our emotional state. So people, for most of the people, one day will be happy, one day will be sad, one day will be angry, and this whole change in our mental state is what will consume our entire energy. We are caught in that cycle of time. But I said the Vishuddhi Chakra has 16 petals, only 15 titis. So what is that 16th petal? That is called as Ama. And unlike the others, this Ama never waxes or wanes. So it is described as a thin and hundredth part of a hair. But it is the source of that Amrita. So when the seeker reaches the Vishuddhi and they meditate on the crystal Shiva and Shakti, they are able to tap into the 16th digit. So what does that mean? If they tap into the Ama, I said the Ama doesn't wax or wane. That means this person will stop being a slave to the phases of life, all this happiness, anger, etc. And for us, our emotions change depending on what's happening outside. The circumstances will influence our emotion. But for this person, they are able to find a constant, cool, stable place in their mind, and something that doesn't change when the circumstances do. So they seek that level of stability and clarity when they meditate Shiva and Shakti in that throat chakra and are able to get that particular grace. Also, we said, the person now, as they are in the path of this throat chakra, all their internal agitation, the anger, ego, everything is also cooled, right? So by following this path, it said śuddhasphaṭikaviśadaṁ. You can also look at it as they are in the path that is similar to the moonlight. You can think of it that way also. The sarupya literally means they are similar. So what does that mean? If you look at the moon always reflects the sun. Similarly, this person gets into the path where they reflect that divine consciousness. That is the pure consciousness of Shiva. He is the śuddhasphaṭikaviśadaṁ. So they are able to start reflecting that divine light. They are able to start projecting that pure consciousness. So we said the vidhūtāntardhvāntā. So the inner darkness is dispelled here. And what is that inner darkness? That inner darkness is this feeling of the delusion of I, mine, all of those. So this is the ahamkaram, and that ahamkaram is what separates us from the world, right? So when the moon of the Vishuddhi rises, then the seeker starts to realize that this entire universe is nothing but a reflection of that one single light. And so at that point, their mind is perfectly clear. The dust of all the past karma is all gone, and they have complete clarity. They start to see the oneness between themselves and the rest of the world. And also here, Shiva is referenced as vyomajanakaṁ. So vyomajanakaṁ, if you look at the ether, space, it is the subtlest of all the physical elements. Out of the 5 elements, space is the subtlest. It is the container for everything else, but it is not something that you can touch, feel, or anything like that. Space is just there, right? So by meditating on that creator of the space, the one thing that happens to the sadhaka is they move from being a solid body or a vessel of emotions. And solid body, you can think of it as earth, and vessel of emotions, you can see how our emotions are all changing. You can think of it like water. Now they are moving into the space. They are becoming the infinite space. That means they are expanding their consciousness. And also, either, as I told you all, is the medium through which the sound travels. And that's why Vishuddhi is the center of communication and creativity. So all the speech is what is in the throat chakra. And if you see, the crystal is transparent, but when the light hits it, suddenly the whole thing comes alive. So like that, the throat is a silent space. But once this divine divine couple's grace hits that particular center, then it creates speech. And how is that particular speech? When the inner darkness is dispelled, the words are now no longer just words. They become like mantra. So if we all speak from the lower chakra, our words could be hot, spicy, heavy, depressed, all of those are possible. But when one meditates on Vishuddhi, gets the grace of Devi and Shakti, and their throat chakra is clarified. That's why Vishuddhi, pure clarity, they are extremely pure. At that point, it changes the way one interacts with the people. The words of these people become very healing. And when a enlightened person speak, then their words don't burn anybody. In fact, they heal and they satisfy the parched soul of the listener. Right? So the all the listeners are also in the forest fire. So this clarified person is able to give them that comfort. The words are like amrita, nectar, and everybody wants to listen to that more and more. And the more they hear to this person, they feel more and more satisfied, and they also get to feel like that Chakora bird. And so, if you look at the sun's light is so bright, it makes the world visible, right? So, that allows you to see the world. But if you see the moon's Amrita, that allows you to endure the world and eventually transcend it. That's why this person in this Vishuddhi Chakra transitions from reaction to reflection. So they are no longer reacting to the world's darkness, rather, they are at a point in life or in the bliss state where they understand that they and the pure consciousness are one and the same, and they start to reflect that divine light. And like that Chakora bird, they are finding that total satisfaction in that moonlight of their own purified consciousness. So, this particular verse is chanted to get freedom from all obstacles caused due to black magic and also for good physical health. And the equivalent Lalita Sahasranama Namas is Vishuddhi Chakra Nilaya. So, with that, we have looked at the entire verse and its meaning and the word by word meaning. Let's take a look at a small story related to this verse. So long ago, there lived a Gandharva. His name was Pushpadanta. So, as you all know, Gandharvas are celestial musicians, and they perform in Indra's court. And Pushpadanta was not just someone who was a great musician, he also was a great poet. And also, he happened to be a very ardent devotee of Shiva. And Pushpadanta had this extra power to be invisible to the human eye, and he also had the ability to fly anywhere he wanted to. So one day Pushpadanta was traveling around the world, and he arrived at a kingdom that belonged to King Chitraratha. And Pushpadanta was so taken with the beauty of this kingdom. Wherever he saw, there were all these beautiful gardens, and the gardens were full of colorful flowers. It was a sight to behold everywhere in this kingdom, and it gives you a sense of peace, tranquility, joy, everything. So Pushpadanta was very impressed with Chitraratha's kingdom, and he was going and visiting all the places around. Pushpadanta is invisible, right? So wherever he goes, nobody is going to be able to see. So he was free to go wherever he wanted to go. And as he was going, he went to the garden of King Chitraratha. So the palace garden, he went there. And the palace garden topped it all. So far, everything was beautiful, colorful, and all that. And this palace garden had all these beautiful flowers that seemed so unique, and he had never seen something like that. So there were lots of nice bushes and trees that gave all these good flowers. And when Pushpadanta saw Chitraratha's personal garden, he was just not able to stop himself. You've seen, right? For a lot of people, if they see good flowers, immediately they will want to pluck those flowers. Obviously, majority of the people may be offering it to God, but a similar thing happened for Pushpadanta. Now he wanted to pluck these flowers because he happens to be a great devotee of Shiva. Now all these beautiful flowers, his biggest desire is, let me cut all of these flowers and then offer it to Shiva, do a puja for Shiva. And those of us who do the puja, it's actually really joyful to have lots and lots of flowers to be able to offer. It just enhances that experience. So he was in that. By the way, when we are offering flowers to the flowers for puja, the best flowers to offer to puja is those that grew in our own garden. The next one is to buy something from outside, but offering flowers that were plucked from anywhere else is not a good way to do puja. Pushpadanta knew that, but when he saw all these flowers, he was not able to stop himself, and so he proceeded to pluck as many flowers as possible. He did feel bad that he was stealing the flowers, but he simply could not help himself. And because nobody can see him, nobody noticed what he was doing, so he plucked all the flowers, went back, and he did the puja that he wanted to do for Shiva. Now, King Chitraratha came to his garden, and interestingly, he is also a great devotee of Shiva. Actually, the whole purpose of King Chitraratha having this garden was to be able to get the flowers every day so he can do the puja for Shiva. So now it was time for his morning ritual, and he came to the garden to get the flowers. He was completely shocked. There were hardly any flowers, and he has never had a situation like this, and there's just one or two flowers left everywhere. And so suddenly King Chitraratha thought, oh, is it possible that somebody had already cut the flowers so that they kept it ready for the puja? So immediately he called the guards and said, what happened? Did somebody already cut the flowers? And now the guards are all very worried. The king is asking this question. So they said, sorry, king, we really do not know what happened. We definitely did not take these flowers. We did not cut it and keep it for your puja. We were going around and doing the rounds of the palace, and by the time we came here, we found it in this state. So we really don't know who took the flowers. This is actually strange, right? Nobody comes to the palace garden and takes the flowers. And King Chitraratha realized they were telling the truth, and the guys were just doing their normal palace round. So he decided not to be upset with them. And he said, okay, you should appoint more guards who are in this palace garden and who are guarding this garden. So make sure that somebody's watching, because we need to find out who came and took the flowers. And then he took the few flowers that were left, and he just did the puja that day with that particular flower. So now the next day happens, and then King Chitraratha comes into the palace garden, and now he still finds that all the flowers are gone and there are only few flowers left. This time King Chitraratha is completely outraged. There were more guards appointed in the palace garden. They didn't go anywhere else and they were there, but still they couldn't find out who took the flowers. Now this is a law and order problem. Somebody is casually coming and stealing from the king's own garden. So he was actually wondering, how is it possible for someone to trick so many guards who were stationed there and still get the flowers? So he said, we have to do something about it. So we have to get to the bottom of it. So the king thought of a plan, and he called his guards and said, go get some dry leaves and spread it around those bushes and trees where all these special flowers are. The point being that if you have all those dry leaves, and if somebody walks, then it will rustle, and then you'll know that somebody is there. You can catch them. So with that plan, all the guards decided they'll go get some dry leaves. And as they were looking for it, there was a bilva tree. So bilvam or vilvam is a special thing for Shiva. It is his favorite leaf. It's called as nirmalyam. And if we do puja with bilvam for Shiva, it is very, very special. So they found the bilva tree there. So immediately they decided they will take the leaves of the bilva tree, and they didn't know any different. So they went ahead and put all those leaves around the trees and the bushes. Now the next day also, Pushpadanta is coming to the palace garden. Now it's become his habit. Every day he will come because all these flowers are beautiful. So he comes there, and now he is still very excited about all these flowers, and his eyes are only on the flowers. He didn't see what was down. So he walks into the garden and he tries to go pluck the flower. But as soon as he goes near that, he's stepping on that vilva leaf that was on the ground. And as soon as he stepped on the vilva leaf, and this is happening in the earth, Shiva, who's meditating in Kailasam, suddenly feels a disturbance. And so Shiva, who was in a penance, he opens his eyes. And then he realized what disturbed him was that somebody stepped on the bilva leaf. And so he saw who was doing it. And then he realized Pushpadanta stepped on the bilva leaf, and he actually stepped on it in an effort to go steal the flowers from the king's garden. And because he had this ability to be invisible, he was using that power to go and steal from the king's garden. And obviously, what he was doing, he was taking the stolen flowers and offering it to Shiva himself. So now Shiva is also part of this deal. So Shiva said, I don't want anything to do with all the stealing. So immediately, Shiva took away his power to be invisible. So Pushpadanta was no longer invisible to human eye, he could be seen by humans. So now, as he stepped on the leaf and the leaves rustled, the guards were all running towards, and they suddenly saw this tall, handsome Gandharva who's reaching for all the flowers. So they immediately went to attack him, and this is the guy they've been all waiting to catch. And Pushpadanta saw all these guards come towards him, but what he was surprised by that is that they were able to see him. He realized that they were able to see him, and he was coolly standing there because he will be invisible. And when they came to attack, he did not even have time to react. He was so shocked by the fact that they could see him that he did not even react. And it was convenient for all the guards. So they immediately caught him, they arrested him, and they put him in the jail for the crime of stealing flowers from the palace garden. So now Pushpadanta is in the jail, and he's thinking, how come these guards were able to see me? I am invisible. How could that have happened? So he's playing this again and again in his mind, and then suddenly it dawns on him. He stepped on the bilva leaf, and so he immediately realizes, okay, when I stepped on the bilva leaf, Shiva must have gotten angry, and that's why he took away my ability to be invisible. So now that he knows that he made Shiva very angry, he is a devotee of Shiva. So now his whole goal is to somehow please Shiva. And we said he is a poet, right? So in the jail, he is now composing a shloka. And this shloka came out so beautifully because it's coming from a place of repentance, it's coming from a place of wanting to please Shiva. And so it was one of the most beautiful shloka. And when Shiva heard that shloka, he was so pleased that he completely forgave Pushpadanta. So that shloka that Pushpadanta composed in the jail is called as Shiva Mahimna Stotram. It's one of the most beautiful stotram and most powerful stotram for Shiva. So now, as Shiva forgave Pushpadanta, listening to Shiva Mahimna Stotram, Pushpadanta got back his ability to be invisible and also to be able to fly anywhere he wants. And then he got out of the jail, he went to King Chitraratha, and he also asked for his forgiveness, and he said he'll never ever steal again. And King Chitraratha is also a devotee of Shiva, and he was also able to listen to the Shiva Mahimna Stotram, and he was also elated. So King Chitraratha also forgave Pushpadanta. So now Pushpadanta decided that he will go and meet Shiva in Kailasa. And after composing the Shiva Mahimna Stotram, Pushpadanta was a little bit proud, right? He thought, oh, I wrote a shloka that even Shiva himself was happy with. And when King Chitraratha heard it, he just could not believe the beauty of this shloka. So always with the capability, that is the big thing. Whatever skill we have, it becomes a big source of ego. In lots of other things, whether we have money, whether we have beauty, to a certain extent they fade with time. But when somebody has a skill, that is their own, no matter how long, whatever you've learned is yours always. And that's why with Vidya, you're supposed to get Vinayam. Vinayam means humility, but in general, Vidya always leads to Garvam if we don't watch for it, and Pushpadanta fell trapped to that. So Pushpadanta now, in his mind, is thinking, I'm great because I composed this. So now he is going to Kailasa, and he goes and bows down to Shiva. Obviously, Shiva is the one who created everything. He is the one who is giving the space for everything to be there. So he immediately understood what Pushpadanta was thinking. And so Shiva blessed him, and then he said, Pushpadanta, in all my temples, there will always be a Nandi outside. Why don't you go and peek inside the Nandi's mouth? And Pushpadanta was completely surprised. Why is Shiva asking him to do something that is so strange, right? Why should he go and peek into Nandi's mouth? But obviously, he's a devotee of Shiva. If Shiva is advising him to do something, he's going to do it. So then, Pushpadanta went to the temple, one of the temples, and he looked inside the Nandi's mouth. And when he looked inside Nandi's mouth, Pushpadanta was completely taken aback because that entire sloka that he had composed, the Shiva Mahimna Stotram, was engraved in tiny letters in the teeth inside Nandi's mouth. So Nandi actually represents Veda Swarupa. He is the embodiment of Vedas. And so everything is contained within him. And so all the Shiva Mahimna Stotra was in there. So once he saw the verses on Nandi's teeth, Pushpadanta came to realize that Shiva is the source of all things in this universe. Everything originates from him. He is the one who is also the sound. He is the one who created all the words that we speak, and he is the one who also gave us the ability to speak. So he is the creator of everything. He is the container of everything. He is the origin of everything. And so every poem already exists within him. And so these thoughts and words and speech and all of that we have is already existing. And Pushpadanta realized that he didn't create the stotram, rather he simply downloaded it from the divine, or it just was revealed to him. So that's the realization that Pushpadanta came to, and he bowed Shiva and went back to his place with that knowledge. So you can see that Pushpadanta's journey is actually the journey of the Vishuddha Chakra. So what it is trying to say is, when we use our powers for ego and selfish desires, then we become visible to the traps of the world. So then the antardhvāntā remains, right? And that is the place where we fall trapped to the samsara davanala. And so we are consumed by the worldly desires, the fire, the ego, the passion, the anxiety, the anger, and everything, when we operate from the place of our own ego and selfish desires. But when our awareness becomes the reflection of the divine, then we become instruments of a song that was written before time began. And that's what Pushpadanta experienced. That's all for today. Thank you.